The Van Dyke's wife, Shirley Ann Jones, said his health had deteriorated since a traffic accident in 2015. A boisterous performer who supported himself with a banjo and comedy stage act when television and film roles were scant, Van Dyke was a ham to his brother's more dignified persona. Jerry Van Dyke, who after decades in show business finally emerged from the shadow of his older brother, Dick, with an Emmy-nominated role in the long-running ABC sitcom Coach, died Friday at his ranch in Arkansas. He was 86. Jerry's wife, Shirley Ann Jones, said his health had deteriorated since a traffic accident in 2015. From the beginning, Van Dyke's television career was intertwined with his brother's. One of his earliest TV appearances was in 1962 in a two-part episode of The Dick Van Dyke Show, as Stacey Petrie, the would-be comedian brother of Dick's character, Rob Petrie. A boisterous performer who supported himself with a banjo and comedy stage act when television and film roles were scant, Van Dyke was a ham to his brother's more dignified persona. But while Dick had runaway success early on, with the Broadway show and film Bye Bye Birdie, the Disney musical Mary Poppins and The Dick Van Dyke Show, his brother's career was long defined by a string of short-lived projects, like The Judy Garland Show and the game show Picture This. The Van Dyke was frank but good-humored about his failures. "If I had it all to do over again, I definitely would have turned things down," he told the Associated Press in 1994. "Almost everything I did." Article continued below. The worst of those projects was My Mother the Car, which ran for one notorious season on NBC beginning in September 1965. He played a man who buys a car that contains the spirit of his deceased mother, voiced by Ann Sothern. The plot revolved around Van Dyke's attempts to conceal the car's consciousness from his family and to keep an unscrupulous automobile collector, played by Avery Schreiber, from acquiring it. The premise seems far-fetched, if not bizarre, but fantastical sitcoms like I Dream of Jeannie and Bewitched became popular around the same time. My Mother the Car never caught on and was savaged by critics. When people talk about bad television, My Mother the Car is the show that pops to mind. The Van Dyke told the App. In 1990, he went on to have prominent roles in other series that did not last long, like Accidental Family, Headmaster and 13 Queens Boulevard, and largely supported himself with his stage show. His brother, meanwhile, enjoyed more success, including a lead role in the 1968 Disney film Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, a musical about a flying car. But in 1989, Jerry Van Dyke landed the role of Luther Van Dam, the assistant coach to Craig T. Nelson's head football coach, Hayden Fox, on Coach. They worked together to lead the fictional Minnesota State University Screaming Eagles, often with guest appearances by professional football figures like Troy Aikman, Dick Butkus and Jerry Jones, as well as actors like Lucy Liu, Drew Carey and Mary Hart. The Van Dam, a bumbling, subservient second banana who had occasional moments of pathos, was a reliable source of laughs on the show, which ran until 1997. Van Dyke was invited on talk shows, like Late Show with David Letterman, and was nominated for 4 Emmys for supporting actor for playing Van Dam, but he never won any. He told USA Today in 1990 that he was thrilled to get some recognition after his meandering career. "Everybody talks about me making a comeback," he said. "I say, come back from what? This is as good as it's ever been." Jerry Van Dyke was born on July 27, 1931, in Danville, Illinois, to Lauren, a traveling salesman, and former Hazel McCourt, a homemaker. He was a little more than 5 years younger than Dick, and like his brother started a comedy act as a teenager, honing his skills at nightclubs and strip clubs. "I couldn't do anything else," he joked to USA Today in 1990. "I decided to be a comedian at 8 years old and didn't enter my studies in school. Had I known how to do anything else, I would have quit." Many times, he performed at bases around the world during a stint in the Air Force in the mid-1950s. He appeared as a guest on The Ed Sullivan Show, had walk-on roles on Perry Mason and The Andy Griffith Show, and appeared in the John Wayne and Maureen O'Hara Western McClintock 1963, one of a handful of movies he acted in. By the end of the 1960s, Van Dyke's television career had tapered off. He supported himself with his stage act at Playboy clubs in Las Vegas and on cruise ships. He also appeared on shows like Love, American Style, The Mary Tyler Moore Show, and, not surprisingly, The New Dick Van Dyke Show. The Van Dyke married Carol Johnson in the mid-1950s, they divorced in the mid-1970s. Besides his wife, Jones, survivors include a daughter, Jerry Lynn, and a son, Ronald, both from his first marriage, and two her children. Another daughter, Kelly Jean Van Dyke Nance, died in 1991. After Coach, he appeared in sitcoms like My Name is Earl and Raising Hope. The Van Dyke brothers kept playing siblings together into old age, including on the ABC sitcom The Middle in 2015. In 1993, just over 3 decades after his first guest appearance on The Dick Van Dyke Show, Jerry the Van Dyke returned his brother's favor when Dick had a non-speaking, walk-on part in a Christmas episode of Coach. "I'm getting sick of Dick riding on my coattails," the Van Dyke joked to the Toronto Star in 1994. "I just can't prop up his career forever." At the time, Dick had a show of his own, Diagnosis Murder, on CBS. He played the lead, a doctor who solved crimes. Jerry appeared on the show in 1999.